Kevin Durant did it. All of it. All of it. Every single bit of it in every fashion imaginable, and created two players out of thin air. And the Jazz couldn't stop the Nets in any way, shape, or form. That's the story tonight, and we're talking about it on POSTCAST. David Locke, along with Ron Boone, as the Brooklyn Nets defeat the Utah Jazz tonight, 114-106. Kevin Durant is the story. 37 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. He created 22 for Brown and 15 for Claxton. And Ron, when the broadcast started, we talked about two offenses that were just churning. They have been running at about 120 offensive rating for, I think it was 5 of their last 6. We've been there for the last 3. And the question I kept asking earlier is, can we have a good enough offensive game that we don't have to try to stop them? A little bit of my point was I didn't know that we could. We didn't have an answer. The offense for the Jazz in the first quarter was great. They led 28-25. The offense blinks a little in the second, kind of blinks a little bit in the third, only in the sense that it was still good. It just wasn't otherworldly, and the Nets were otherworldly with their offense because they have a simply unguardable player in Kevin Durant.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it started to blink late in the second quarter, and then boy, the Nets just took it over in that third period, getting 38 points at the Jazz 24, largely because of Kevin Durant. Now, Kevin Durant made Brown a much better basketball player tonight, or showed us that he was a much better, and Claxton, because of the Jazz after paying so much attention to Kevin Durant. But he is unbelievable. It's hard to any other player in this league that can control a basketball game and strictly being a jump shooter. I mean, not necessarily a penetrator where he's anything like this. He's a jump shooter, and he shoots a great percentage, but he makes his teammates better.
Another thing we brought up early in the broadcast was he only takes 1.6 shots a night at the rim.
Yeah.
So the question was like, how does Rudy? We talk so often about Rudy Gobert altering people's shot chart. There really wasn't a shot chart for him to alter.
Right.
He's 62% shooter if he's in an isolation and goes to his right. Like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
The Jazz tried to keep him from his right, but he's so good. I do think one thing that's really interesting in this game is that Kevin Durant and the Utah Jazz had not played each other since 2017. In the last 5 games they've matched up, Durant hadn't played. And so Royce O'Neal was not the primary defender. And if you remember, one of our storylines we had last year in 2020, 2021 was that O'Neal was getting better as a defender as he was guarding guys for the second, third, fourth, fifth times. This was really his first night of trying to guard Durant and feel him and understand him. And he didn't actually look bad doing it. You could just tell he didn't have quite a certainty of what he was trying to do. And even if he did, it might not have mattered. Yeah. But that is where Royce got better last year as a defender, was when he was facing guys for the second and third times as the primary defender. Ingles and Crowder were the last guys to guard Durant.
And how difficult was that for anyone to defend him? It's almost like it's not fair. And what you would like to do, and what I'm sure is just try to make it hard for him. But sometimes guys like that accept the challenge, and then, as you mentioned, it's like he scores and then he starts talking to you or something like this, because he's just that good and he accepts challenges. But Royce O'Neal being at 6'4", and Kevin Durant being at 6'11", almost 7 foot with that wingspan, and plays 15 feet away from the basket. His mid post plays, or you can't stop him, and he puts the ball on the floor and gets into a rhythm where he's going to shoot, as you mentioned, going to his right. You can't stop that either. I have not yet to see anyone block his shot. So it's just remarkable what he can do just by being a jump shooter. That's what I think. That's what I'm more impressed with, the fact that he can control a game just by being a jump shooter.
The thing that was equally as impressive to me, Ron, was his pregame warmup. And I came up here immediately. I was like, did you see that? We'd seen it in Golden State. This felt a little different. He clears it out. He's the only one on the floor. I'm certain of the fact that he has made it that he is the only one on the floor. And he took every shot at game speed. I would say he took about a quarter of the amount of shots as most guys. He never took a shot to the same spot back to back. He always went back behind the three-point line, which is very much what Ray Allen used to do. Ray Allen used to cross half court. But everything was full speed. Everything was full elevation. Everything was done off. If he was off the bounce, it was that. Like, it was so interesting to watch compared to what you see out of most players. I'm not sure I've seen another player do everything at game speed and everything at full elevation and full explosion in a warm-up like that at 33 years old too.
They're very much under control. And as we talked about early, I mean, everything is, all of his shots are game shots and at a certain speed. So you can't speed him up. And it's just remarkable. I mean, it's what he does for this basketball team. And if they are healthy, and Kyrie gets a chance to get on the floor, I can't see. I mean, you're going to have to outscore them because I don't think you can stop them.
Ben Simmons' back injury sounds really significant. He's got a herniated disc. Word is he's actually not moving well at all. Like, it's pretty serious. So I don't know that you can expect Ben Simmons. But boy, if they played Milwaukee in a playoff series and Ben Simmons is guarding Giannis, and now nobody's there to guard Durant, and Giannis has to try to deal with Ben Simmons on one side while he's got to go on the guard Durant on the other. Like, oh my. But they've got to come through the play-in. That's the crazy. This was a massively important game for Brooklyn also, is the other aspect. Rudy Gobert is not a factor in tonight's game at all.
No, he wasn't.
Both on the offense and, frankly, on the defensive end. Defensive end's understandable. Durant's just that good and you can't get to him.
4 rebounds for Rudy Gobert.
Well, there weren't any misses by Durant.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they shot 54%, but usually teams shoot 50% like that. Rudy still dominates the glass. I mean, he still comes up with, most of the rebounds. But tonight, the Jazz with only 37 rebounds, and Rudy and as you mentioned, Royce O'Neal led the way with 8. So
here's what's very clear, Ron. Rudy Gobert is averaging 15 points a game, shooting 70%. He's the first player in the history of the game to do it. The math on it, if you allow Rudy to get 7 or 8 shots and he shoots 70%, it's almost impossible to catch us.
Yeah.
It's just the math becomes hard. Teams know it now.
Yeah.
Like, that's the latest scouting report on the Jazz.
Yeah.
This is a lot of games in a row where Rudy Gobert is not getting the ball. And if Rudy Gobert doesn't get the ball, now some of it might be no bogey, and so it'd be interesting to look at Rudy's shot attempts with bogey off the floor, because they must not be guarding Herman Gomez, they're not guarding Morris, they're not guarding Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and so they're bringing guys off those guys, and Rudy can't get the ball. If Rudy doesn't get shots at the rim, our offense is not quite as potent as it would be otherwise.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, and hopefully, as we see Bojan walking off the floor, that we hope that his
dressed in all black, if you're wondering.
Yeah.
Black shoes.
Favorite color.
Black pants.
Yeah.
Black sweatshirt, because he's Bogey.
But he makes a big difference in what the Jazz need to do out there on the floor. And Quinn's obviously will have to figure something out in order to make Rudy, he had a pretty good night last night, against the Nets. But tonight, a little bit different story with Kevin Durant out there on the floor.
Well, the Utah Jazz fall tonight. Really, to me, the story is Durant. I think rest did play a massive factor in the league right now. They had 2 days off. The Jazz were playing a back-to-back. Donovan had 6 turnovers. We turned it over 13 times, which is not horrendous. I don't have a lot of answers. Jordan and Mike and Donovan scored some points. And
there isn't a lot of answers because the Nets were just that good. Yeah, I mean, you got to give them credit, and not so much that what the Jazz didn't do and all that, but the Nets played well. I mean, and Durant made Brown a relevant player out there on the floor, and Claxton as well. Now, I was thinking during the course of the basketball, if Drummond would have been a starter tonight, would this been a little bit different story? Because Claxton was a runner, and he's a rim runner, as a matter of fact, and he got a lot of finishes at the rim.
Jazz now go to face the hottest team in the NBA, the Boston Celtics, who've been the best team in the league since basically January, as the next stop on this difficult road trip. I don't know who you're rooting for in Minnesota, Dallas. Just whoever wins tonight, you're rooting for them to lose the next. That's really what it comes down to. Jazz lose tonight in Brooklyn. Kevin Durant, a basketball maestro. Have a good night.